So a while ago I got to thinking, and I started wondering, whatever happened to the third installments of the Pokemon generations? For the first 4 generations of Pokemon, there was always a third main series game that was released after the initial 2. This game was by far the superior version of that generation. Not only would it fix bugs, it would also add things to the game, correct some movesets, change character sprites, so on and so forth. Generation 1 had Pokemon Yellow. This was initially released in September of 1998, 2 years after Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue. Generation 2 had Pokemon Crystal, which was initially released December of 2000, 1 year after Gold and Silver. Generation 3 had Pokemon Emerald, which was initially released in September of 2004, 2 years after Ruby and Sapphire, and finally Generation 4 had Pokemon Platinum, which was initially released in 2008, 2 years after Diamond and Pearl. Now all of those dates were the initial release dates in Japan, as Pokemon didn't start doing worldwide releases until Generation 6. Before Generation 6, Japan always got the games first, either a couple months or a couple years beforehand. Anyway, each of these added things to the generation. Now I won't be going through all of them, but here are some examples from each game. In Pokemon Yellow, the story changed up a bit. You were forced to take a Pikachu as a starter. This was also the first game where a Pokemon followed you. Granted, it was only Pikachu. You could also get all 3 starters in these games, something that was not doable in the first 3 games. The game also changed some sprites and names of NPCs as well as Pokemon. And this game was also made to more so mirror the anime. Pokemon Crystal also had some changes. This was the first Pokemon game where you could choose your gender, something which has been a staple since then. It also added sprite animations, another series first. Granted, it was only upon the start of battle. One of the biggest changes in my opinion was how Suicune played a bigger part in these games. Normally all 3 legendary dogs were random roaming encounters, and they would flee during their first turn. However, in Crystal, you would chase Suicune all around Johto until it finally found you worthy, after which it would just straight up battle you without fleeing. This is the main reason why I like Suicune over the other 2 legendary dogs. Pokemon Emerald adjusted the story a bit. It changed the final gym leader as well as the champion of the region. It also added the Battle Frontier, the best post-game in all of Pokemon in my opinion. I literally spent hundreds of hours roaming around this area and just battling in all of the facilities. Finally, the last of the third installments, Pokemon Platinum. This one I think had the most changes between its base games. First off, a whole new area was created for this game, an area that played a pretty big part. The Distortion World. The story also more so focused on Giratina, at least more than the other 2. It also added more post-game activities. One such addition was the fact that you could obtain a villa in these games which you could spend a ton of money on to deck it out with a bunch of cool stuff. You would also get visits from gym leaders, the Elite Four, and even the champion for that matter. Needless to say, the third installments of each generation were always the best, and that is a fact. So this statement brings me back to the title of this video. What happened to the third installments of the Pokemon games? Why did they stop making them? Well, I did some digging, and I think I have a good understanding of why they stopped making these games. So, here's a list of all the Pokemon games and how many units they sold. Since we are focusing on only the third installments, let's do this. Alright, let's see, where are the third installments? Oh, there they are, at the bottom. Well, for the most part. As we can see from this chart, Pokemon Crystal only sold 6.3 million copies. Emerald sold 7 million and Platinum 7.6 million. Even Pokemon Yellow only sold 14 million copies, and that game came out at the height of Pokemon fever. Let's extend this chart real quick to the sequel games. Now I use sequel with air quotes, but even the sequel games, Black 2, White 2, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, these games only sold 8.2 million and 9 million respectively. It is clear to see from this chart that, sadly, they didn't sell enough. Or rather as much as their counterparts. The best 2 Pokemon games in my opinion are in the bottom 3 of units sold. Once I saw these numbers, it was pretty pretty clear to me why they stopped making these games. As I mentioned earlier in this video, most of the third games came out 2 years after the initial releases. This most likely means that they spent those years focusing on developing and releasing these games, only for them not to sell as well as they most likely would have hoped. It is clear to me by this chart and the numbers shown that most people who played Pokemon weren't interested in playing the same game a couple of years later, aside from the die-hard fans. And this also goes for the sequels on this list as well. Now, some of you may be saying to yourself, if you divide the sales between number of games, the third installment sold around the same amount. And that is true for some of them. However, look at it like this. The first 2 installments are developed at the same time. There are minimal differences between the two. Maybe some colors are changed, names are changed, available Pokemon are changed, and that's really about it. The third games most likely required extra work on account of the changes they had made. Extra code needed to be written, different art needed to be made, just lots of different changes had to be made. Seeing it from the eyes of the developer, spending 2 years making the third installment only for it to sell a fraction of what the main 2 games sold, to me it makes it not worth making those games. Instead, they could have just focused on the next generation or different spin-off games. New generations or spin-off games would have had a good chance of selling more copies than that of the third installments. Now, even if you don't like my reasoning here, I do have one more that is pretty hard to dispute. Another reason I came up with for why Pokemon no longer makes the third installments is that there isn't really a need for it, despite how many people would like them. A lot of the time, the third games were created to polish those games out, remove some bugs, add extra features, things like that. However, we now live in the age of internet. The internet is way different from 14 years ago. Nowadays, it is much easier to patch games after they had been released and fix bugs that way. And we have seen it multiple times in recent games. Pokemon Sword and Shield patched bugs that deleted saves when saving in some cities. Even more recent, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl also patched out multiple ways to break boundaries and duplicate Pokemon and items. There simply isn't a need for these third games anymore. Now, have they had some missed opportunities? Absolutely. I'm looking at you, Pokemon Z. But that's really the truth of the matter. They aren't needed anymore, and they're not worth the effort as they don't sell as much. It just costs too much time and money, sad as this is to say. Will we see a third installment of Pokemon games in the future? Probably not. Not in this timeline. However, I hope I am proven wrong in the future. Well guys, that's my video. I do want to thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not let me know by leaving a like and commenting down below. If you didn't enjoy the video, comment why you think they stopped making the third installments. As always, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye.